Are we overhyping this team a little bit? Plus some pushback on my deepest running back comment. Let's talk about it. The listener and community edition, Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Roast Ryan Herrings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Really do appreciate y'all. We try to do these shows once a week where we just get some comments and questions and thoughts and from the community, from Twitter, from Discord, from the YouTube shows, whatever it is. We throw them up there and we talk about it. I want to start off with this one. So Curtis Holland and I did a show yesterday that posted today, going position by position, right? Are we better or worse than last year? And pretty convinced, I think pretty obviously we're a better team than last year when you go position by position. I don't think that's drinking Kool-Aid. I don't think that's overhyping it. But I do want to throw a couple of these comments up here. This is from Henry H. Lots of Cardinal Kool-Aid being drank again this year. May need to slow our roll. Going to be a struggle to get to 7-5 as every team believes their rooms are better. That's from Henry H. Appreciate the comment. And again, as always, these aren't comments put up to like ridicule anything. These are just, let's have the discussions. That's what this channel is all about. Let's have the discussions. Let's talk about it. All opinions are welcome. 100%. As long as it's respectful, we're here to talk about it. And this is from Steve. Oh, no, this one's from Jeffrey D. That's the other one I wanted to get it to. Curtis is drowning in Kool-Aid. Holy cow. Are we overhyping this team? Are we getting a little ahead of the skis? Probably to some degree, yes. Because listen, that's what we do inherently every offseason and every spring and every fall. And if you went to the boards at Nebraska, they're probably cornfed.com, whatever their message board is. If you go to any of these other boards, they're probably doing the same thing, right? I'm sure Nebraska, USC, Iowa, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, they're all hyping it up. But so yes, to some degree, this happens every year. You get a little excited because you are convinced that everybody's in the best shape of their lives and every problem's been fixed. But again, going position by position, which I feel like we holistically tried to be really fair on, right? I didn't give our offensive line a better grade than last year. I think it's a push. I thought tight ends were better last year. I thought, I kind of said quarterbacks better just because of depth, but not because I think we're dramatically better because of Tyler Van Dyke. This team's better. It's just better. And if calling it like it is and just being real is overhyping the team, then I guess we're overhyping it. But this team is better than last year. It just is. It's deeper. It's faster. It's going to be more cohesively coached. You have a starting center that can snap the ball. A lot of these pieces that we were counting on last year are back with another year, right? The tackles are back with another year underneath them. The running back room is deeper. Those receivers that we were really high on last year, most of them are back. The defensive line has reloaded somewhat. The linebackers are overhauled. There's no argument you can make that cornerback isn't better, right? Nizer's taking a big jump. That's not hype. Just watch. I'm telling you, when you see it in games, you're going to say, yeah, okay, yeah, that checks. Yep. Rico's back. The corners are deeper. Safeties are back. Like, this team's better. It's just better. That's not overhyping it. Now, if someone came on the show and said, hey, I think we can get to 10-2, I think we're going to run the table and all the games that aren't the big four, and we're going to split the big. I think, yeah, that's probably overhyping it. I don't think this is a 10-win team. I've said it. I think it's an 8-4 team, which means we're one game better than last year against a tougher schedule. Curtis was on. I don't think he said anything super crazy, but listen, ultimately, we're going to see, right? Ultimately, in a couple weeks, in a month, we're going to know. And that's going to be the litmus test. And if you want to have a fair degree of healthy skepticism, that's 100% fine. But I don't think we're drowning in the Kool-Aid or overhyping it dramatically. I really don't. I think this team is better. And I think, I'll tell you this, at practice, right, on the last practice I was at, which would have been Sunday, would have been the night scrimmage, talking to someone in the program, they said, yeah, this team's better. And it wasn't an on-air record. It wasn't anything to hype me up. He had no reason to tell me that. Like, this team is better. I'm telling you, this team is better. And how that's going to translate onto the field, I'm not sure. But it's a better team this year. Ryan Hepting says, happy Friday. What's up, Ryan? Strong name. Love it. Griffin Klein said, watch part of practice on Wednesday from the parking garage. CJ and Tretch look real improved and will be big factors. Tretch will be second behind Pauling in receptions. I hope you're there with like binoculars, like zooming in. That's awesome. Yeah, like CJ and Tretch do look improved. I agree there. Again, all these receivers that came in last year, right? CJ Williams, Bryson Green, these players that we were really counting on last year, they didn't live up to the hype last year, but now it feels like that has fallen too far, and now people are like too down on them. So I think they're going to have a bounce back. And yeah, I think Tretch is going to be a real player this year. And ultimately, it's year 2 in Coach Fickle's system. Like year 2 with Tressel, Fickle, and Longo is just going to be more cohesive. It just is. And I will take that one. Like every year we do a segment. Ryan was right. Ryan was wrong. And there's stuff on both sides of the ledger. There's blood on both sides of that ledger, right? I own my mistakes. I did not last year put nearly enough stock into, hey, year 1 is going to be bumpy. That was on me. 100%. I was way wrong. But year 2 is going to be better. It just is. Like it's going to be a cleaner product because they've been here for a year. Let's get into a couple more of these, again, comments and thoughts from the channel, from YouTube. This one's from Steve M. I thought this was a good comment. We've been talking a lot about offensive line depth, and he said, have to play some freshman offensive linemen this year to get them ready for next year. Here's the part that I thought he really nailed that we haven't talked about a ton. It's going to be worse next year. And I thought about that. I was like, yeah, you're probably right. Like you're going to have all these true freshmen that are going to have reps and going to be able to play a little bit more next year. But you look at next year, Nelson, Malman, Brunner could, but let's say Nelson, Malman, Huber, Renfro, this team is still going to have a ton of inexperienced depth next year. And they're going to have to hit the portal. They're going to have to hit the portal for maybe a couple guys. Steve did say, hey, it'll pay off. And I agree. Like in 3 years, like you can imagine this offensive line of like a Haywood, maybe a Haywood, Emerson Mandel, Corey, Coverly, Jensen, Powell. Like you can, in 3 years, it could be really good. But yeah, he's probably right. Next year is not going to be any better from the offensive line depth standpoint. And then JB pushing back on my deepest running back room comment. He said, it's not even close to the deepest running back room. He rattled off a bunch of years. He said 2010, Ball, Clay, White, Ewing. 2011, Ball, White, Gordon, Lewis, Ewing. JB, I didn't say it was the best room. I said it might be the deepest. In that, I think you can go like 6 deep this year. None of those rooms you were going 6 deep in. Like, and maybe, listen, still tell me I'm wrong. Like, that's fine. But I think you're misinterpreting potentially, like, this running back room is nowhere near better than a running back room that has veteran Monte Ball and James White or Melvin Gordon. It's not better than those. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. I'm saying it's probably deeper. Because I think you talk to anybody, you watch practice, they legitimately can go Ches, Tywee, Aker, Yakimelli, the 2 freshmen. They can go 6 deep, and they're not going to be super stressed about it. I don't know if there's another running back room that you could say that about at Wisconsin. Again, deepest, most depth is not best. Is not the most top heavy or the overall best unit. So I think maybe there's a wire across there. But I would stand by that. I think this potentially is the deepest running back room we've had in quite a while. All right, let's take a quick break there. Come back. I want to get into some more of your comments. Continue to just wonder, are we overhyping this? What are your guys' thoughts? Do you think this show, the media in general, fans are overhyping this product, or do you think that legitimately it's just better? And if you're just talking about a team that is better and saying it's going to be better, is that overhyping it? I don't know. Let's talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, a quick break for a couple of our good friends of the show over at FanDuel. FanDuel remains the #1 source for all your betting needs. And listen, this is a great time to talk about it, right? If we're overhyping it or not, go hit that over or under. And listen, Vegas will tell you we're probably overhyping it, right? The line of it's a little low. So if you think we are overhyping it, maybe there's an opportunity there for you to make some money over at FanDuel.com. Futures, parlays, teasers, spreads. Plus, they're hooking up everybody all summer long. It's not the sportsiest time of the year. So boost and bonus daily over at FanDuel.com. Make some winnings, right? Go pull it out and go buy some swag for the Badger Man Cave. Go get you a Melvin Gordon framed autographed poster. Go get you something nice over at FanDuel.com. Make some winnings. Have fun. Spice up your sports weekend. Please do it responsibly. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode also brought to you by our good friends over at Gametime. Gametime remains your ultimate spot to get the tickets that you need to spice up your life, have a little more fun, enjoy it a little bit more. Go over to Gametime, get those tickets. Download the Gametime app today. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off over at Gametime. The biggest inventory of seats, plus pictures of the seats, panoramic before you sit down, so you know exactly. I went to a Knicks Suns game one time. I wish I had Gametime because my seat was not ideal. I didn't know what I was getting into. This is the place to know exactly what you're getting, better prices, cheaper logistical planning stuff. Like, you just don't have to plan it out as much. As the day gets closer, you get flash sales. Go over to Gametime, download the app, create the account, and get rid of the stress of buying tickets. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off over at gametime.com. Okay, let's get some comments here. Let's keep talking about this. Overhyping or not? Let's get some comments here. Let's see what people are saying. Kevin B says, I think the Badgers' breakthrough seasons will come in 26 and 27. Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably more likely. You got to look at schedules. Schedules always play such a big part of this, and I'd be curious. I haven't really looked that far out, to be honest. But these classes that they're bringing in are going to be mature at that point, right? In a couple of years, you're going to have a 3-year kid in Xavier Lucas. You're going to have a couple of these linebackers that are going to be upperclassmen. The offensive line we talked about. Ultimately, the key is going to be quarterback, though, right? I think this staff has checked the box, and yeah, they can recruit running backs, cornerbacks, offensive linemen. I think defense line's getting better. Certainly, linebackers they've been crushing. Can they get the quarterback? Can Longo get that guy and develop him? Because if yes, then yeah, that breakthrough season is going to come because they can upgrade everything around him. So far, it's been a little wishy-washy, right? You look at the quarterback talent that Longo's brought in. Mordecai, we go back and forth consistently on Mordecai, but certainly he didn't hit the mark that we had hoped he would. Nick Evers has already transferred out. Cole LaCruz is in that first class and hasn't been able to make much of a move. Braden Locke has still been a little inconsistent. You've had to go to another portal guy this year. That's a marker that's a little worrisome. Truthfully, like, next year is going to be really interesting to see where we think this quarterback recruiting is going, because up to this point, it's been a little hit or miss, I would say. Steve Mitchell said, hard to say you're overhyping, predicting 7-5, maybe 8-4. That's what I'm saying. I'm predicting 8-4. Like, is that crazy? But maybe it's the way I'm doing it. Maybe it's the statements. Yeah, like, defense line's going to be better. Running back's the deepest room that we've had in a while. Linebackers way better. And I will point out, to be fair, last year, our discussion on the receivers being maybe one of the best receiver groups we've had, since ... We had that discussion on the show. I mean, Justin, Rajiv, myself, other people. It does sound similar to the way we're describing linebackers right now. So that's a fair point. We were drastically over the skis on the receiver room and how good it could be last year. So I think maybe some of the differences we've seen already, those linebackers translate in practice, right? I've seen them translate in practice. We've seen them have more success in other places. Like, you're talking about a CJ Williams that came over. He was more hyped than production, whereas a Jaheim Thomas was 6th in the SEC in tackles last year. So there is a little more production in areas. John Pius was a FCS All-American. I think I think he averaged, I think he was 6th in that league in sack rate. That's off the top of my head. But some of these guys, Leon Lowry's been a multi-year starter, right? Some of these guys have more production coming in than some of those receivers did. So I think maybe from that sense, it's a little different, but that's a fair point. It really is a fair point. Coleslaw 1000 says, Nebraska worries me. You know, I've never had coleslaw. I don't even know if I could pick it out of a brunch. Anyway, he says, Nebraska worries me. The only thing they care about is beating Wisconsin. Yeah, listen, Nebraska's not going to be an easy game. I know some people have maybe written that one off. I think that's going to be a battle. You get them later in the year. They do have a 5-star quarterback. And listen, that can go either way. But if it goes the way that he develops, yeah, it could be scary. Rule's a real coach. I think that's a battle. And most of our Nebraska games have been close. Hooger, O-line will be the factor for this team. Defense has gotten better. I think TVD is an upgrade for Mordecai. Yeah, I'll say this. In terms of O-line will be the factor. If the offensive line stays healthy, that's the factor to me. At the end of the year, if you tell me we went 9-3, we went 8-4, I would say, well, the offensive line must have stayed healthy. And at the end of the year, if we go 6-6, 5-7, I'd say, man, I bet you lost 2 or 3 offensive linemen, huh? And future Ryan is going to come back and say, yeah, you're going to lose 2 or 3 offensive linemen. What do you think the record's going to be? I made a comment, not to be pessimistic, but I think it's fair. I made a comment to Rajiv the other day. I was like, imagine you weren't a fan of the Badgers. You're just a college football junkie, right? So you know how football works. Imagine you weren't a fan and somebody told you, okay, so this team, we'll call them Team X. It's going to be the Badgers. Team X is coming into the year off a 7-5 season, okay? They have with a really tough schedule, okay? Team X is coming into the year up a 7-5 season with a really tough schedule, and they have pretty big questions depth on the offensive line, the defensive line, and they're relying on a fifth-year transfer quarterback who has had struggles with consistency and injuries. What do you think that record would be? I think most people, if you just give them very broad parameters, and it's not that simple, obviously, would say, so you're telling me a kind of mediocre-ish team last year plays a really tough schedule this year, and they have pretty large questions along the depth on both lines, and they have a transfer quarterback. Probably not going to be a great year, right? So, I'm right there with you, Hooger. Offensive line. Can they stay healthy? It's a massive part of this year. Archer, you would expect a year or two team to take a jump as the head coach gets his system more entrenched. 100%. Yeah, and again, that's where I don't think I wasn't good enough last year in my analysis of the early struggles this program could have adjusting to new coaches everywhere. That was on me. But a lot of that learning curve is over, right? They're more entrenched now, and I think it is going to be better just because of that. Christian Gross, I'm completely out on Latu. Literally, how many games did he lose for us last year? Also, Fernie leaving was the biggest positive to happen to this line. Yeah, Latu couldn't tackle last year. Here's the thing: his physicality, if he can fix the tackling, does give this team something, right? Gives you a bit of a hammer back there that can be intimidating, that can come up, and honestly, football's a physics game. Right? It's a physics game. Bigger, faster people win most of the time. And bigger, faster people cause more fumbles. They cause more disruptions. So if he can tackle, he gives you an element that's unique. I'm not going to say Fernie was the best thing happening this line. I think he gave you depth, and we could use some of that. Hooger, it's the deepest room we've had, but not the best yet. That's exactly where I'm at, running back room, man. You and I, like Legos, we're sticking together on this one. Uncultured Barbarian. It doesn't matter if we are overhyping, we're excited. Have a good weekend, everybody. That is well said. That is well said. The playmaker, Curtis Allen himself, most of the people saying we were overhyping the team haven't actually seen the team live yet. That's a good point. Again, I'm not telling you to take what I'm saying for gospel or what anyone else is saying for gospel. Fan, however you want to fan. But seeing them live, it does change the perception. I'm telling you, this running back room is legit. The linebackers are legit. The coverage looks really good. Now, the coverage also looks really good because I have some questions about the receiver room. Those two things do go hand in hand, but this team's better than last year. I have a very hard time barring just a rash of injuries to seeing how this team isn't going to be better than next year. Now, better than last year. Better than last year against a tougher schedule doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win 9-10 games there, obviously, right? But this team is deeper. They're more athletic. They're more talented. They've overhauled some of their biggest question mark issues last year. And quite frankly, just putting Renfro in the middle of the offensive line changes everything. That pivot in the middle with consistency and toughness and line calls, it changes the entire look of that group. So it's a better team than last year. I'm fully convinced of that. Let's see. Any other questions here? I think we'll wrap it up there, guys. Mountain Grizzly, hope we start better this year. Sheriff Neza, overhyping the passing offense and defensive line, underhyping running backs and DBs. Yeah, I think this is a general comment in terms of overhyping the passing game and defense line, because I'm definitely not that high on the defense line to the point where I feel like I get called out on it a little bit. But I think from a media standpoint, I do think that is still a spot that people are potentially getting a little high on. I wonder about the passing offense as well. TVD to me could go either way. Again, I don't think he's necessarily an upgrade over Mordecai. I just think that he has better pieces around him. So, all right, we're going to wrap it up there, guys. Again, just always want to do this community show so we can just talk and discuss and have some fun. Appreciate everybody tuning in. You guys are the best. Bunch more content coming up next week as the season draws near and near. Really excited for it. Have a great interview with Brian Smith coming up. Chrissy Freud, who's a quarterback guru, is going to come on and talk TBD. Bunch of stuff coming up on Wisconsin. Really do appreciate y'all. We'll end here with Cheesehead Bucky. I've seen the offense line twice in person, and I do have some concerns. Well, that's a pessimistic comment. Truthful, though. We're not going to end on a pessimistic comment, though. Hooger says, have a good one. Zach Patterman says, everyone remember, the best is yet to come. The 24 and 25 classes are two of the best we've ever had, and the staff has stacked them consecutively. There's a great one to end on, Zach. Thank you so much. Yeah, the upside, I think, is bright here because I really like these recruiting classes, and I think this coaching staff is the right one to have in place. So, yeah, that's a great comment to end on. Appreciate you, Zach. On Wisconsin, and we will talk later.